Welcome, guys, to the seventh, 5, 2 digital, prescribed respawn gaming emergency department. Everyone have a good day.
I think a couple more of these and we get a set of Ginsu knives.
Do we? Awesome. Regular business first. This panel will feature medical professionals discussing real medical procedures, mental health issues, and feature medical imagery. Any patient material is de-identified and presented with consent. Attendee discretion is advised. Additionally, we will talk a lot about games and it may contain spoilers, possibly the bigger issue.
You've been warned.
You've been warned.
You're at a gaming conference, there might be games.
We will be showing clips and images. They are for illustrative and discursive purposes only. Any and all rights to the concept are retained by any and all creators and owners thereof. Starting off.
Oh no, he's been promoted.
Well, you got to do more things.
Hi.
There we go.
Dr. Evil, evil by name, evil by nature. I work in trauma surgery, general surgery, and military stuff. I go from putting holes into people and then patching them back. One is easy to do. Guess which one?
It's a full yin and yang.
Whole rotation. Dr. Bones.
So yeah, I'm Bones. As the name would suggest, I love bones, love power tools, particularly spine. You give me a hammer and I know what to do with it. Sometimes I get handed a hammer and it's called a mallet and then I have to tell people what the difference is. Yeah.
Dr. June.
Yeah, that's me. Victorian. The rest of these guys.
Era or?
Well, when we came in, it said, gaming went old.
Yeah, old gamers.
Addiction medicine general physician here in Victoria.
How many painted models have you done this year?
Like actually, fully painted?
How big is your grey shade pile?
Oh, no.
How many rooms?
Oh, no. How many models have I painted this year?
One. That's 100% increase on last year. Thank you, Dr. Boone. Dr. Death.
Hi, so I'm Dr. Death. I work in anatomical pathology, which is a discipline of pathology. So we're the hidden doctors out in the lab doing funky tests and generating wonderful, useful results for your doctors that you see to use to give you the best care. We do not all, but a lot of the icky. There's a reason we're in the lab, there's a reason no one sees us. I don't usually get let out, this is fun.
Never go over to Dr. Death's house for dinner because her freezer is just occasional wonders.
You're not supposed to take work home with you. Lastly, join us, Dr. Brain.
Dr. Brain, I'm a psychiatry registrar, fairly new recruit to the prescribed respawn panel, and now they can't get rid of me.
Stop.
Love games, love Nintendo, love Pokemon. If you can't already tell from the little promo, this is a screenshot of my complete Pokedex with every single Pokemon. Wait for it, there's more. With every single Pokemon from their original game. So if it appeared in Pokemon Ruby, it had to come from Pokemon Ruby on the Game Boy Advance, not Pokemon Omega Ruby / any other game on the Nintendo 3DS, for example. So it's my little passion project and got a captive audience to brag to.
Thank you to whoever gasped, because watching, good on you, Dr. Brain, but watching it happen is like watching paint dry.
It was worth it.
Thank you. Amazing. Unsung heroes. The Master Chief of Design does all of this pretty stuff. He designs our pins each year as well. And he does a lot of stuff and works out of Born and Thread. So if you need pictures, things printed, merch, definitely look him up. But let's dive in. Literally fist first.
It's the oldest form of damage. All right, this damage existed before damage was even a known quantity. And if anyone's been punched or has punched someone or something, you know it causes damage. I just ask you to not do that. This is not an instructional panel teaching you how to do the damage. But the thing I always found interesting, the damage that occurs in melee combat in most fighting games, Mortal Kombat, and you tear people apart, it's slightly different, is it's minuscule damage. Like it's like, all right, you take 1d4 or something.
No, 1 plus 3. You need to defeat.
I do 1d4. And the hilarious thing is that you can kill someone with one punch. There are sucker punches, the midnight, back of the head, and people are killed. And look at this image. I love this photo of this guy just getting into the face. And that's not Photoshop. Look how deformed his face is. So not only is that a broken jaw, but if that person wasn't wearing PPE on their hand, that's broken bones in the hand, broken bones in the wrist. You're essentially combat ineffective because you're not able to do anything with that hand anymore.
Because he's going to explode bones. Hypothetically, how many bones in that hand would you break?
I mean, usually they come in with that 5th metacarpal, and then we know they don't know how to punch. But we don't
Just private consoles.
How did you get this degree? No. Wait, you're sending you an unusual excuse.
Yeah. Tooth knuckle injuries, they're bane of our Friday nights.
And don't punch people in the jaw because you do get bitten at the same time. Which goes on to, melee combat and then getting bitten goes into the next type of damage that you can have, which is your close quarters, your slashing damage. Now one would think that, cutting someone doesn't require much in the way of instruction, but there's very few places around the human body that if you delivered slashing damage to, people would die automatically. All right? And there's some blood vessels on the neck, there's some blood vessels on the underarm, in the groin, and obviously the big red pumpy thing in the centre. But if you put holes in those, you squirt out the 5+ litres of red stuff you've got flowing around your body, and then you pass away. But it's never a one lethal strike, it's just a slow burn thing. So my major chagrin with slashing damage is it should be a recurring slow burn. There should be bleeding damage that occurs as a result of it. All right? But if you're very clever about where you do it, you actually don't leave that many physical marks around the person. But always beware, so in my line of work, when someone comes in and they've got a single sort of puncture mark here, or a puncture mark in one of the junctional areas, I'm immediately worried because they might be actually hemorrhaging uncontrollably. And even if the blood stays on the inside, where it belongs, if it's going into a place where it doesn't belong, it's still a problem.
I got internal bleeding, that's where the blood's meant to be.
And so one of the more graphic things I've had to do, so people who've been lacerated on the inside, so we open them up from sort of breastbone to pubic bone. And the blood's been sitting there for a while where it turns into jelly.
Gelatinous cube.
Yeah, you're full of gelatinous cubes. What you have to do, one of the initial sort of trauma things that you do when you open someone up, is you actually have to scoop blood out of people. Now usually there's, suction, more suction. Oh, thank you. More suction. The suction doesn't work. You can't suction jello. So it's literally the first 1, 2, 3 cuts, you're in the belly, and then and you can have like 5, 6, 7 litres inside the abdomen. So that's why you wear gumboots, don't you?
No, I don't need gumboots anymore. It's fine, like you don't want them bleeding much, mate. You also don't want the spinal fluid coming out. They give you a headache and them a headache.
But slashing damage, no reloads. Like it's great. You can keep going and going and going. The person you're slashing, not necessarily. Let's talk about piercing damage, where you do need to kind of reload. Right?
Yeah, well, especially if you're this guy.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Overkill. This he doesn't turn into my problem. He doesn't turn into Bones' problem. He turns into Dr. Death's problem.
It's not a problem, he just comes to pathology outpatients.
He's very compliant. Very compliant.
I'm not sure it's going to be easy to tell what caused the death.
It doesn't matter, you don't have to rush, they're stable.
It's
It means you take your time and you do a good job.
Does this fall in the line of all bleeding stops eventually?
Yes.
So piercing damage from arrows to bullets to even a dagger is a different beast entirely. So piercing damage, different from slashing damage, does internalise a lot more, and accordingly it can damage some rather important things. The fascinating thing though is piercing damage when it comes to low velocity munition, so arrows, daggers, is isolated to that one location. So if you get shot with an arrow, don't pull it out, just leave it in there. And we'll deal with it afterwards. So broadhead arrows are designed to pierce and stay in. Those are the arrows that sort of pointed like that. The standard archery arrows, which are just a little nubbin, they don't do any damage on the way in or out really. It's just
the hole?
Just the hole. Just an extra one. So yeah, you get something stuck in you, please, in the movies, they tear it out, they pour some gunpowder in it and light it on fire, cauterize and just don't do that. And was it Far Cry where he does all the first aid? Yeah, it's just gut-churning stuff. So yeah, leave the arrow in, please. And you usually won't die from a single arrow. One of the more accurate scenes is Sean Bean, who died, who got 3 or 4, I think.
Sean Bean dies in everything.
Yeah.
Die in Black Beauty.
He didn't.
He didn't die in Black Beauty.
But Christopher Pratt, who is the actor who has died the most in movies? No. Close though, he's on the list. Yeah, top 5. Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah. It's actually in his contract, if he's a bad guy, he's not allowed to live. Because he wants to be a good example to his kids.
Thank you, Dr. Evil.
Danny Trejo also from Vice City as well.
So,
Doc, what you want to know?
no, that's okay. I was going to also thank Dr. Evil for that reminder about why I did psychiatry. So we're going to take a sharp U-turn and talk about Princess Peach for a hot minute here. So,
At least 7.
At least. I've played a lot of Mario franchise games over the years, and it has made me realise there is something going on with Peach. So have you ever thought about Peach's wild power trajectory throughout the Mario franchise? Alright, we'll start with Mario. So his power growth is pretty linear. He starts essentially being able to run, jump and crouch, and then temporary power-ups. And then from 1985 until now, that basically hasn't changed very much. He gets a spin jump in Super Mario World, he gets a triple jump and a wall kick in Mario 64, which he keeps. Then he gets a ground pound in New Super Mario Bros. On DS, he gets a mid-air spin on Wii, but it's pretty consistent, pretty linear. He keeps the mechanics to the current entry, which is Super Mario Wonder. And if you can pick up and play Super Mario on DS, you can pretty much play Super Mario Wonder on the Switch in 2023.
Where does the Yoshi sacrifice come into? Is this mental instability?
It's for the temporary power-ups.
Right.
We established in the first panel that Mario is a psychopath.
Well, we'll just wait till you hear about Peach. Peach's power trajectory is all over the place in contrast to Mario. So her character oscillates from being a total liability to one of the most powerful in the game from very, very early in the franchise. So first 2 games, Super Mario Bros. And the Lost Levels, she is captured by Bowser the Whole game. And then in the 3rd series entry, which is the American Super Mario Bros. 2, she's a playable character for the first time, and she can jump and float, and she's one of the most powerful characters in the game. Some people call it an easy mode. And then after that, she's back to damsel in distress territory for like years, or even worse, she even sabotages her rescue in Super Mario Sunshine. She can easily jump down, but she chooses not to. And that continues for like 17 years until Super Princess Peach.
She's blaming.
It's going to get so much worse.
Tip of the iceberg.
Well, yeah, Super Princess Peach 2005, that's her first game as a protagonist. She can float and then she can destroy these massive blocks. She can even use her emotions on demand, so burst into flames or like cry tears and then just turn it off, like that. Terrifying. So then for 7 games and 8 years, she's helpless again. And then on the Super Mario 3D World on Switch, she can float again. She's overpowered, one of the most powerful in the game. Pattern continues, amazing, terrible. Then the movie also cast her as this absolute ninja, and she can hold her own in Super Smash Brothers and since like 2001. So the point is, it's all over the place, and she's frequently cast as this damsel in distress, but she's definitely capable of much more. She can also send like clues and letters sometimes, but this just turns into this taunt when it's compared with how powerful she actually is if she could be teaming up with Mario or helping or saving herself. So the question is why? We'll flip to the next slide. Just really real, but I think it just illustrates my point. So this begs the question: is she choosing not to escape? Which we'll look at in the next slide. Okay, that's okay. All right. We're missing out on the slow zoom into her sort of cold, smiling face. But just imagine that. Okay, so there are multiple moments in the series where she could seemingly do more to escape, but the most chilling is definitely Super Mario Bros. 1, her first entry. So you don't notice in the heat of the moment when you're doing that, you know, and Bowser's shooting fire at you and throwing hammers and everything. She's actually just standing there off screen, smiling, when she could jump up and just get that axe and help out and just end this all right here, while Mario is like furiously fighting. Yes, if she did that now, then he would be loved and like Mario would be dead too. But if you remember, Bowser is shooting fire at you from way early in the level, so he's facing that way, and she definitely could have loved him earlier. Come on. So in 1973, the term Stockholm Syndrome was coined to describe this weird event where captors developed this paradoxically positive reaction to their captor, and they were like raising money in his defense and stuff. They wouldn't testify against him. Super strange. So is this what's happened? Maybe, but it's this super controversial thing. It's not actually diagnosable in official texts, and it might not be real. Which leads us to consider a possibly more sinister explanation about why she may be voluntarily holding on. Imagine a life when nothing has gone wrong. You live in this land, you're waited on by hundreds of eager toads willing to do anything. This is called silver spoon syndrome. And suddenly one day, you're captured by this turtle and your life is turned utterly upside down. So we now know that she's strong enough to get away, like if not every time, at least 1 to 16 or so times she has been captured. But for someone who's never even had to wash their own dishes, maybe she just deeply believes that it's not her role to rescue herself. And then when she is rescued, so her Mushroom King dad does exist, but where has he been for like 40 years?
So you're saying she's got abandonment issues as well?
Oh yeah, I didn't have time to do a deep dive into that, but this has practically left her with the responsibilities of running a whole kingdom. So maybe there's this element of secondary gain to being stuck in a castle instead of following her princessly duties. How many lives, though, is she willing to put at stake to meet her own selfish needs? She wouldn't risk the whole kingdom. Would she? Remember, she let Mario nearly fight to the death for the chance to be rescued rather than doing it herself. And she briefly thanks him before then just sending him coldly straight on this other quest. So even more chilling, in her first console game as the main character, Super Princess Peach we mentioned earlier, from this cold state she can just cry a fountain of tears, turn it off, burst into flames, turn it off. Someone who has that control over their emotions must have high cognitive empathy. And then that paired with this total disregard for certain moustached plumbers and millions of toads, time and time again in a repeated pattern for 40 years, this is the work of a psychopath. Sociopath. cloaked in a shroud of misogyny. There's so many unwilling to question why. Sometimes she's super powerful and sometimes she's so helpless.
I can't believe you just called one of the flagship characters from Nintendo a psychopath. I'm sorry, Nintendo.
I worry that Mario is now as powerful that needs to be tested. 30 seconds silence.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll do a very, very brief look at the final possibility. Okay, so also we may not have a full floating gift with this, but it is Mario as an elephant floating through space. So psychosis, it is characterized by disconnection from reality, delusions, auditory hallucinations, various things. Anyone can get psychosis if they're stressed enough or if they have enough substances, and possibly the repeated exposure to mushrooms over a very long period of time might be reducing Nietzsche's threshold to meet this impaired state, therefore causing her to not be able to save herself in times of kidnapping. So maybe that's her redemption arc. I think that's the end. That's all I have time for. Thanks very much.
So the Mushroom Kingdom doesn't actually exist. It's just a storage container.
Thank you, Dr. Brain. We will never pitch review the same way again.
So from entertainment to watching paint dry.
Physics.
So hopefully people like physics, because we're having a physics lesson. We're going to do some science because this is stuff that doesn't always come through and really we don't understand it in the video games. So let's talk a little bit about movement and gravity. There's a lot of games that have jumping mechanics. Like, you gotta jump on this box, you gotta climb over this thing, you gotta jump over this railing, you gotta jump off this building. But how does it actually work? It's all a function of velocity, height, and time. The time you've got between when you're jumping and when you're gonna hit the ground. And I'm not gonna go into all of the stuff on that other side image there. But suffice to say, how high you are off the ground, how fast you're moving in the direction, and up or sideways, combination of both, and how long you've got till you hit the ground is how we determine how far you're going to end up. So how far can we actually really go, realistically?
Realistically?
So this is standing broad jump. So for those that don't know what that means, it's you're standing still and you're going to try to jump as far as you can. And on one side we've got people identifying as males, on the other side people identifying as females. And this is not your height, this is how far you should be able to jump. I tried this one at home. We won't talk about it.
Should is a strong word.
Well,
could maybe.
You could try this one at home, but I won't comment as to where down the bottom I fell.
He was jumping, his wife was jumping to conclusions.
No, I was jumping by myself. No, that's right. I did not want that embarrassment. But this is if you think about it, if you're somebody and you can jump more than 2.5 meters, you are peak athleticism. Okay? Like standard plumbers. Peak athletic plumbers. Oh yeah. So, let's have a look and see whether that equates to other people and some of our video game characters. So, Assassin's Creed. That's easy. We can do a single leg standing jump from a pole onto another pole that's at least 6 feet away with no trouble. Never mind the fact that all of the guards in town in armor can do the same thing. These guys are really well trained.
And there's good safety, there's lots of hay bales.
Oh, lots of hay bales. You don't have to worry about falling on anything. My personal favorite is Mario. This is one of the biggest jumps that Mario has to ever do in the first video game. So you start as far to the left as you can with most of your body over the gap. You just run over the 5-foot gap and then leap like 30 feet.
This looks like some Lost Levels torture.
The world record for a running long jump is 29 feet.
So you're saying Mario's a record holder?
He's holding more. Because I counted and there's at least 6 blocks that he jumps over. And if we said that one block is roughly 5 feet, because he fills a full block, you know, we use D&D rules, he's jumping at least 30 feet after running over 5 feet of empty space.
I want to see his stat sheet, because if he can jump that far, then the 10-foot run-up means you jump 10 plus or minus your strength score. Like, he's got a plus 20. Like,
Yeah.
that's huge.
But
DM mode activated.
my next favorite one is the new Prince of Persia game that's coming out. For those that don't know, one of the things you can do is what's called an air dash. So you jump into the air, and then you just move 15 feet sideways. I'm not sure what he pushes off of to get that distance.
Faith.
Have to be. Have to be.
Gotta make it.
Yeah. So on to some more and more interesting jumps. Because what if you have height? Okay. These are guys that have been jumping off of ground level.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some
We're
height.
going to do the realistic ones?
Let's do some realistic jumps. So,
That looked bad.
It's not the fall that hurts you.
Stop. He's got spider strength.
but the really fun part with this one is, for those that don't know, this is Spider-Man 2. He's jumping off of what was the World Trade Center, you know, the new pseudo building in there. They've scaled it up a little bit, so it's 450 meters high. So doing the math, you know, this jump starts where he just walks off the building. So maybe half a meter a second that way. If you notice in the video, in the fall here, he falls that way. I'm not quite sure how he manages that, but he falls 9 seconds in that to fall that 450 meters, and he manages somehow to go sideways about 400 meters. If he's even got a 1 meter per second velocity, he's going to fall 9 meters. I'm not sure how he manages that sideways distance.
You're Spider-Man, you generate lift.
But the really fun part is that spider skills have got to be really, really good, because every square centimeter of his body receives 1.5 tons of pressure.
He's a Spider-Man. He's hollow tubes. So he has no bones.
Yeah, but still. All right, okay. Well, let's take it away from superheroes. Let's go somebody closer to Bones' heart. Good old Red Dead Redemption 2.
That's a good one.
So this is I think Antigua Falls, the highest falls you can jump off of.
That's actual in-game footage of Dave after his horse dies.
Yeah.
You're on a suicide watch after that.
I had to get some other views, you know, from gameplay. Like, I don't have this game, so I had to rely on Google searches to see how far does this guy actually go. He goes about 30 feet out and lands on his head in the water. Water's not soft from that distance.
Can't help but notice he's not Spider-Man.
He's not. Bones?
Although the water is churning, so the surface tension's been broken a little.
Can you fix
But
that?
he has not fallen in a streamlined way like the jumpers. He's fallen very much in like a death-defying kind of sideways belly flying.
So that's an uncontrolled descent.
Just a quick surgery this afternoon and you fix him right up?
Yeah, until
You
the
need
first
to-
X-ray,
the
which will
bones
be
have
in the theatre.
The bones have to dry out first.
Oh, so we just send him straight to...
Yeah.
That's another one of Dr. Death's stuff.
Okay, cool.
Big ups. Well, then what's the most realistic one after this?
This is the most realistic one. Sort of. So for the... So because we haven't had much of it, I decided we could do some Fallout.
People not spoken.
But this is the Mass Fusion building, the highest building in, I think it's Fallout 4. You can climb off. Clearly you can travel 70 to 80 meters horizontally in a relatively short fall, with very little vertical, like horizontal movement. The really fun part about this is if you actually manage to, while you're climbing up this building, inside there are the boots that allow you to do that, which are the free fall legs, and allow you to take this fall with 0 falling damage. We were having a discussion to decide what was actually in those legs to make it so that you don't actually go
To make all your vital organs not suddenly explode or suddenly stop.
Yeah. So what you don't see on screen is the massive amount of marshmallow material to just impact and just squish that fall nice and gentle.
Maybe it's flubber.
It could be flubber.
Good bounce back on.
Amazing, Dr. Doon. I think that takes us. Thank you for the quick lesson in physics.
Well, in case you thought physics was dry, the first topic came to me when I have this annual sort of like rage moment when we have to do our registration, because all doctors have to be registered, which is good. They should be. But we pay a huge amount of money to a group called APRA, and every time I do it, I lose a little bit of my soul. So I thought, it got me thinking, in all of our panels so far, we've discussed medical elements of games or medicine in games, but what about doctors in games, actual doctors in games? Are they qualified? Are they friendly? Are they safe? Do they look Bill? So trust me, I'm a doctor is about as convincing as Rat in the Hat from Bananas in Pyjamas. So let's put this theory to the test. Doctors in games. So in Australia, thank you, we have the Australian Medical Council, the AMC, the Medical Board of Australia, and all medical practitioners, as I said, have to be registered with AHPRA, which is the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, who say our primary role is to protect the public. Noble service. So they require us to provide proof of identity, that we are who we say we are. We have to prove that we have English language skills, qualifications, so evidence of a medical degree awarded by an Australian or New Zealand medical school accredited by the AMC, the Australian Medical College. You have to do a medical internship. You have to do your annual registration fee, prove that you've got recency of practice, so you haven't just had a 20-year hiatus on a beach in Hawaii and then come back and said, oh yeah, I can do medicine, I haven't forgotten anything. God, I wish.
Beaches.
Yeah. And insurance. Oh, and you have to complete a criminal history check and disclose any prior history. Yes. Now, this isn't to say that you can't have a prior criminal history. You just have to not lie about it, and they have to say it's okay. Yeah. Yep. True. So, like, if you went along and said, "Oh no, I've got no criminal history," and they found a parking ticket, not a parking ticket, but you know, something minor in a criminal history, they could potentially just refuse your registration because they'd say, "Well, you didn't disclose it. We don't trust you."
Yeah.
But if you went along and said, "Look, mate, I got drunk a few years ago and like this happened," then they have to make a judgment call and be like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, it was a few years ago, whatever," or like, no.
Not in the operating theatre.
So anyway, you don't have to be not a criminal, but you have to be an honest criminal. Let's not go down that
That's the most Australian thing you've ever said.
Yes, well, we're Australian, aren't we? It's the Australian Medical Council, so.
So it's a requirement?
Anyway, so I stole this flowchart off the AMC website, and then this is a more accurate, oh sorry, yes.
Oh, you want to go?
So this is a more accurate representation of what we actually kind of do. I tried drawing the path that some of us followed to do medicine, and it just got too confusing and depressing. So
I see an absence of hammers from this flowchart.
Weapons. Hammers are weapons.
So yes, when you finally finish your degree, do a couple of years, you try and start a specialty, you figure out what your quad play style is, and then you live the game for 3 to 10 plus years and get your fellowship, as many to my right will attest.
There's no psychiatry on this, I noticed. I'm like, what am I
Well, there's no pathology on this list either. What do you want? There was a the drugs and medicine. My list was worse. So
He just
anyway,
looked at this and rejected it and said, no, we're going to carve our own path.
It's psychiatry and,
clearly
and
I've
pathology.
upset the panel. So Dr. Braden can give them all psychotherapy later. So there's lots of good examples of doctors in games, like Dr. Ashford and Dr. Isaacs in Resident Evil, Dr. Zed Blanco on Pantera, Dr. Nefarious, Dr. Doom, Dr. Mario. But I've chosen a few examples to discuss here today. So Exhibit A, Case Study 1. Could he be registered to, like, will you show up to the next GP appointment and be seen by Jonathan Crane? So yes, first of all, flag 1, identity. Is he Jonathan Crane alias Scarecrow? Is he Scarecrow formerly known as Jonathan Crane? First red flag, doesn't know who he is. English. If you speak in nursery rhymes, but you're saying the nursery rhymes in English, and people can kind of get meaning from context, are you communicating? Probably, sort of, maybe.
So you're saying he's going to do pediatrics?
I just call these pointy tickles.
No. So qualifications, he's immensely qualified, yep, tick, good. We'll assume he did an internship, good on him. Registration, I'm just gonna assume lapsed, because we get to criminal check, and he murdered his own grandmother. He experimented on his medical students and his patients and the residents of Arkham Asylum and the people of Gotham City and himself. And it says things like, without fear, my life is meaningless. So I'm thinking criminal check was a fail. Overall status fail.
Even in Australia. You
Even
failed that.
in Australia.
And this is why we have to go through ethical approval.
Yes.
What criteria?
What? Which one?
Where's the how legible is his handwriting?
Oh no, with those fingers, he definitely passes.
I mean, like, that is a pass. If you would be able to
Dr. Death, I am going to have to keep you real on
yes,
point if
yes.
we're going to get through everything.
Crack on. So Exhibit B. Today's next medical practitioner is Maria Gorey from Ace Attorney. We open up the dead to find the truth, which she does. She's British, not Australian. She works for Scotland Yard as a coroner. She's allegedly a doctor. I question that because she's 19. So I did look this up. I said, is it possible? Am I being, what's it, ageist? Yes,
I'm
thank
pretty
you.
sure Judy Hauser was younger.
Well, you have to turn 18 in your first year of medical school in Australia and in Britain. You aren't allowed to apply any younger than that. She would have had to do a residency and her specialty training, and I don't know a way of doing all of that in less than 2 years. So unfortunately, she sounds very competent from all of the, all of her findings, her autopsy findings and crime solving, spot on, well done, Scotland Yard, solid, but she's just not qualified. No.
Waiting for Dr. Bones' sort of his case study to come up.
Oh, I was going to tell you, you're up next.
Sweating.
And then, sorry, just a quick push jump. Next line, please. And finally, we've got the doctor from Highwinds. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Now, this is a fairly new, let me get this right, a space opera tabletop RPG. And I haven't had a chance to play it with these guys yet, but it seems really well written, and I do enjoy it. You can see a photo of the doctor right there. The quotes from the character are, works well under pressure, their skill with medicine and intense focus keeps their patient from death, where technology provides the first step, and this is my absolute favourite, magic provides the second. Helping patients heal quickly. Medical oaths don't prevent them defending themselves. And a variety of medical schools are present across the planets, although many learn on the field. How freaking awesome is that? Magic will fix it if you can't. Don't need a degree, just get out there and have a crack and you'll get better eventually. And, if someone tries to stabby stab you, you stabby stab right back. So yes, and I don't think being a space opera, it's not specifically set in Australia, so they're not bound by the AMC or APRA guidelines. So yes. If you show up and the Hyman's Dr. Lizard with staff comes to see you, sit down. It's safe.
everybody. Part 2.
I decided to do a sequel. So to recap last year, I mean, we spoke about the real great calamity, and we summarised that Link broke many pots himself, but also shattered the Hyrulean economy, turning himself into a criminal. Now, he's on the run. So he's fugitive at large. He's getting help from these shady underground associates. He's the important thing of being able to get away from the authorities is being able to run. And so this opened up the question about running economy. Now, I didn't know anything about this until intern Redshirt mentioned it to me at the end of the panel last year. And so this is what started quite a deep dive into the gloom depths.
Did you get ethical approval to experiment on our intern?
No, I experimented on myself. This is immersive research. So he started telling me about this thing called cadence, and he said that Link's cadence is pretty fast, and normally when people run, to run at a healthy cadence, it feels like they're running too fast. And I went, what are you talking about? And so then I Googled it, and then I went down this deep, dark hole of going, there's all this technique to running. Maybe I should try running. Now, I can't run. I run 100 metres and I get out of breath. But for science, I started running consistently, listening to heavy death metal as a form of therapy. And so the target was to do this Wings for Life Gold run last year, and then I've just kept on running. So the things I've done for you guys in the name of science. Next slide. So, when we break it down, the type of footwear is important, and Link doesn't wear very good footwear to begin with. The warm-up, warm-down as well to help try to reduce injury, breathing rhythm. The posture is really important. So what you want when you're running is you want your centre of gravity to be slightly in front of your hips, so a slight forward lean, but you still want to keep your head up. Shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed by your side, and you don't want to be overstriding, because if you're overstriding, you start heel striking with your leg fully extended, and you're going to increase your rate of injury. So then we go to the next slide. These are the types of injuries that you can get if you run poorly, and while most of them are in the lower limbs, and the common ones are things like shin splints, stress fractures in your tibia and your hips, Achilles tendonitis. You can see that you can still get injuries in your back and in your upper limbs. So now we get to the diving into games, firing up the yellow switch. So as we established last year, Link's height is 165 centimetres, and I needed some way to work out how fast he could run. So I took this picture near one of the stables in the Hyrule Fields, and then was able to calculate based on his proportions what his height was relative to those wooden posts and wooden boards. Then I tried to lay out enough of them to make 100 metres, and then I realised with auto build you start losing pieces after about sort of 23 or so. So then I went down to Zora's domain and worked out that bridge has got 14 even sections, and I could get 20 of those posts in line and measure I could get the first 20 posts together, first 7 sections, and so that summarised to me that there was about, the Zora's Bridge was around 150.4 metres. Then took lots of videos of Link running and sprinting and worked out what his pace was. Initially I tried to cheat by looking online, and I went, no, this might be inaccurate information. So accurate information. So I need more
he did his own
info.
research.
So let's go to the next slide. This is Link running. And so what I've worked out is that him running, he gets 3 minutes 18 per kilometre. His cadence is about 220 steps. Now, ideally, most people when they run, like if they haven't been used to running, they run about around 140, 150 steps per minute. Ideally, they say that you want to have 180 steps per minute, but there's no actual science that is based off. So as long as you're keeping it up above about 165, that's an optimal cadence to try to reduce injury to your tendons, muscles, joints. So looking at this, his running technique is pretty reasonable, other than the fact that I think that his cadence step count is too high. But what about sprinting? Sprinting is terrible as opposed to when he's running. When he's running, he's actually got good form, good technique, good body posture. Here, he's really stretching himself. You can see that he's leaning too far forward. He's really overstriding, which is really going to put a lot of force behind his heels, up to his knees, through his hips, through his spine. He's going to get his tibial stress fractures, and his cadence is, again, alarmingly high. And he doesn't sprint for that long. Like, it's only about 11 seconds, and then he has a 4-minute recovery. So he's not a sprinter, but he's a pretty good long distance runner. So let's compare this to some real world figures. So, again, for science. So down the bottom, a very amateur runner, like I can do 17K and then like just stop because I was bored. But usually running somewhere between 5:15 to 5:50 minutes per kilometre. With the cadence, I'm able to get it sort of pretty consistently, 170 to 185. Now, intern redshirt is like it's his religion, running, and he's very good at it. When we did the Wings for Life, we were on an oval, running around in circles, and so I did ask him to do the Captain America thing every time he passed me, saying, "On your left, on your left." And so yeah, by the 20th time, I was like, "God damn it!" So he runs pretty well. Like his best pace that he's been able to sustain, not just sprint, but sustain for any period of time, is 3 minutes 50 per kilometre, which is pretty impressive. Lynx is above that with that high cadence. Then we go to Eliud Kipchoge, who is one of the legends of marathon running. He's the guy that's managed to run a marathon distance in sub 2 hours, which is a pretty big deal. And he has beaten Link. Like we have us plebs down the bottom, and then there's this gap, and then there's Link, and then there's this other gap, and then there is this real man who is just he's amazing. Like, much respect to him. But then I realised something. If you look down the bottom of the screen, time moves very differently in old Hyrule. See, 1 second in my time is a minute in Hyrule time. And so what I can only summarise is that Hyrule is near some sort of singularity black hole in the distance. So wibbly wobbly timey wimey. So
that could technically mean that
Sorry, we are going to do Q&A.
Oh yeah, we'll do Q&A. So I'm a lot more happy with this. Link is less happy, and the L is for loser. So now we go to the next slide. To be fair, Link is carrying a lot of stuff. So this is my inventory after finishing the game. And that is a lot of weight to be carrying. And so no wonder he is over encumbered. And that is why, to me, he is moving as slow as what Beetle is to Link. So what we've established, to summarise our story, Link has not been able to get away from the authorities. He has been captured. When he was arrested, they found a number of items of contraband. They found chopped up parts from alien technology that he's had from his chop shop. They found a surprising number of raw gems, coins, and stolen goods. And so we're waiting his trial.
So you can see as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bones. No time. But Q&A. So if you have a question, we have a couple of lovely doctors.
Just enjoyed the amount of effort that just went into proving a child is slower at running than you.
He's an adult at that stage. It's fair game.
We have a question right here. If the doctors are ready.
Dr. Redshirt, go. Intern, sorry.
Hello. I was wondering, if I theoretically had a vampire boyfriend with the name of Astarion, and he was eating my blood every night, and I woke up the next morning feeling negative effects from how much blood he had taken the night before, how long could I sustain doing that before I just either didn't have enough blood the next night or something very, very bad happened to me?
Really depends, hey. So
We have follow-up questions.
So, I mean, like, as these guys were saying before, like, if you lose enough blood in one hit, that's game over. But if it's very small amounts incrementally, you could sustain that over a long period of time, especially if you're keeping your iron. So you'd have to be replacing things that your body can't make, like iron. So people who are prone to bleeding or have experience with, like if you lose a whole bunch at once, you've got to replace it, or even small amounts over time, you've got to replace it, and it's hard to sometimes keep your iron levels up high enough. So if you were proactively keeping your iron levels high enough or getting iron infusions, your marrow so you've got blood cell progenitors in your marrow which do for all of us compensate for all of the blood cells that we lose. So yeah,
a little bit at a time?
Yeah, a little bit of time's fine.
Like how much volume are we talking?
Yeah,
if he's drinking a pint of blood per sitting, you are not going to last a week.
I don't know how much, but the next day when you wake up, you have a negative attribute called bloodless, which gives you like a -2, I think, on.
Okay. So that's like going to the blood bank and donating blood, and so a cookie isn't enough to replace that.
No.
So I'd be worried you wouldn't be able to last a week.
Within a few days to a week.
The Red Cross won't let me come back for 3 months.
Yeah.
There's other reasons.
Yeah, I was about to say,
doctors.
Let me come back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would it be better for you to have nails like hammered into your thigh or drills to be drilled into your thigh? Like which one would you
Definitely drills.
There you go.
High speed, low
You're talking about like better. What is the context of better?
If you take a hammer and a nail, we're talking, looking at Taken, where he's torturing the guy. If he got that into the bone, the problem is when you have an impact point, it's not as controlled, and you could then have fragmentation. So you could actually, if you push the bone in the right spot, you could shatter it. So like a drill, like more controlled, just so long as you have fast through the first cortex, slow through the second.
Drill would be more soft tissue damage though, with a nail.
Drill protector. Drill protector. If I had a long straw.
If you're volunteering, we can go left leg, right leg.
Yes.
First point of order, both weapons shown on the slashing page did piercing damage.
He's been demoted back down from associate professor to doctor again. Thank you.
Second question, or second point. What is the closest real-world equivalent to psych damage?
Not just psych damage.
Dad joke.
Emotional damage.
Having your horse die in Red Dead Redemption 2. Going out for
I'm half Asian, half Filipino, and emotional damage.
Trauma.
You get a B, it's Asian
But are we
F.
talking about like PTSD or daddy issues like Peach or?
Dr. Mike?
I'd just like to start by thanking Dr. Death for all the instructional information on causing damage today. Distance ourselves from Dr. Death's announcement.
Not an instructional talk.
I was wondering if we give Peach some Zoloft, maybe. If we start on like 100 milligrams and she regulates her emotions and she realizes I can get out of these problems by myself, do we then take away Mario's one true purpose and send him on a downward spiral instead?
What Nintendo don't want you to know is Bowser and Peach are actually married.
Mario is a violent psychopath, so he punches bricks, he squashes animals, he's decided that he wants to try to stretch his violence to other franchises, which is what Super Smash Brothers is. How he treats Yoshi. To make Yoshi stick out his tongue, he donkey punches him in the back of the head. He's a psychopath already.
I will say one technical part of that excellent question. Well, Peach isn't depressed, so Zoloft, and as far as I know, doesn't have an anxiety disorder. She seems to be pretty happy with her situation. so I would not prescribe Zoloft in her case, but therapy certainly would help. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you. Up the back.
Pokemon sustain lots of damage, but they don't seem to look indifferent. What do you think they're made out of?
I don't know about what they're made out of, but Pokemon physics is different because first of all they can shrink down instantaneously into this to fit into a Pokeball.
This has kept you up at night.
talent for and then also subsequently in Sword and Shield, they can Gigantamax and become very massive. So I don't know what's going on, but I don't think it follows the natural laws of anything. What are they made of?
I'm imagining you summoning a Pokemon Pikachu. I choose you, and it comes out.
That's how everyone with chronic health issues feels in the morning.
Yeah. No need to have Crackle and Pop to get your rice bubbles.
Thank you. Other side.
More of two things I'll try to be very brief. First of all, is Khashoggi's shoes that are now banned considered as part of the running? If so, that may drastically improve Link's running ability to at least a second.
I don't think that they get shipped out to Hyrule. The gravitational pull of the singularity makes it very hard for any drivers to return.
There's no Amazon Prime in there.
And in relation to the Astarian question, how is that affected by having a small tadpole in your head?
As well at RFK. Was that too political? That was a niche joke. That was niche for you.
Thank you, Richard.
Hi, I do have a question, but before I want to just the Pokemon thing. I think we've all seen that comic where it's clear that the Pokemon are all just euthanized and replaced at the Reiki centers.
Out of all the things that have been said, that is the darkest. Congratulations.
With regards to Spider-Man and his knee little dive off of that building, assuming that he would react in the way that a normal human would, how much of him would be left?
Everything is left, it's just distributed.
Matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be spread.
Some will be consumed by the energy transfer though. Hitting the ground. Some of it's going to be vaporized.
Oh, you're not going to find some. Back in the middle.
Hello there.
Hello there. Welcome.
So you often see in a lot of media, a lot of medical procedures that change a normal human into what is essentially a demigod or a super soldier of sorts. How close is our current medical technology of brilliance?
So there's a couple of components to it. There's the physiology behind it, and then there's the mechanics of the human being. Physiology can be improved with stimulants. We do it all the time. Welcome to caffeine. So your physiology can be improved to a point, but then eventually all your compensatory mechanisms kind of give up. And there are people who are gifted, who are born with more adaptive physiology. Talk about people who are better suited to work at altitudes because they've got better oxygen offloading at the cellular level. So we have ways to improve that with medications, but go on to the concepts where you pop a tablet and all of a sudden you're Steve Rogers. So the physiology.
Brother, this is not part of the Codex Astarius.
Mechanics. Can you make it better with anything in your arsenal than it was to begin with? You can try.
We can't replicate what the human body does. We try to mimic some of the kinematics, but we don't get it as precise. About all I could do is I could shove some titanium rods in your long bones, and that'll make them more resistant to bending damage.
Less bendiness.
Hi there, I have a Night Trap question. So the augurs in Night Trap have a device to drain blood from their victims, and that this usually happens within like 10 seconds. How long do you think it would actually take to drain the blood from their victims before they drag them away?
10 seconds easily.
If you got into the big pumpy bits like your aorta or your vena cava, there's about 5 litres of blood flowing through them a minute, and you've got 5 to 6 litres in your body, so you could technically get it out quite fast.
Right.
There are some giblets in the way which make it a bit more difficult, so it depends on how pure you want it.
Oh, he drains it from the neck too.
Long straw.
You have to have a long straw.
There's actually a test that we do, and it's called the end of the bed test when we're doing vascular repairs. Okay, so you've got two blood vessels that have been severed or cut, and you're trying to join them back together, and so you sort of neaten up the ends a little bit, and you're like, all right, is there enough flow through this? And all you actually do, and this is in the operating theatre, you point it in a safe direction and see how far it squirts. And the test is, does it make it to the end of the bed? Yeah, we got good flow. Because science.
Jackson Pollock.
Let us assume that Dr. Mario was registered by APRA and ended up on their wall of shame. What did he do?
What didn't he do?
I think unlicensed, doling out of unlicensed pharmaceutics, mass
Those pills are real big.
mass serialized murder.
Constant drug use.
Use driving, definitely.
Yeah, actually, the constant drug use would be a thing. That's that's mandatory reporting. So, yeah, that's what you'd be kicked off for.
Just bear with me one sec. Enforcers, have we got a hard finish, or can we meander through some more questions?
Get back to us.
Well, yeah. While we wait, though.
One more while we wait.
Just very quickly, so just for Dr. Bain, given how much detail you put into Mario, I can only assume that you're probably one of the first that broke the theory of why Mario doesn't have concussion, considering you can only slightly see his arm go up and so many do assume he's hitting the bricks with his head.
Oh my goodness, that's such a good point. How concussed would Mario? How far through a level could he actually get?
Mario has to the concussion pressure.
We did that, so I'm going to put a plug on our YouTube channel. This has actually been cut.
Yeah.
So check out Prescribe Respawn on YouTube, and you'll see or hear some of the previous years' things. You may even learn something.
Detail, that's our pictures.
Thank you all! PAX 2025.